Hello, welcome to theCUBE here in our Palo Alto studios. I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE, here for an NYSE Wired and NYSE LaunchPad featured presentation with Deep Instinct. We got two of the players here, Bess, the CEO, and Froggett, the CIO from Deep Instinct. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on theCUBE, appreciate it.
Our pleasure, thank you so much.
So one of the big impacts in today's market is obviously the security side of it. It's been a data business for a decade in all security conversations we've had. Now with generative AI, you're starting to see security and AI kind of coming together. This is where we're starting to see the scale and the value of the data and the workflows for not only protecting organizations, but defending and fighting back. This has been a big story on theCUBE, and of course you guys are featured at LaunchPad at the NYSE. Tell us more about what you guys are working on and why it's different now in cybersecurity, and how are you guys as a provider positioning the company to be that player, building that portfolio to your customers?
Yeah, well, I'll start with that. If you go back historically, I've been 25 years in the industry. So many of the companies I was involved with in the past, Palo Alto Networks, Zscaler, these companies build tremendous platforms, layers of defense, but for the most part, all companies today that we've seen are still focusing on the detection and remediation aspects. And this was good for a period of time. Layers of defense, you could take care of access identity management, firewalls, proxy, but now the challenge is that AI has really changed the game. I got involved with Deep Instinct about 8 years ago when the answer to the question of how do we actually prevent this? The mandate has been detect, remediate, do whatever you need to do to take care of this. But now the real challenge we have is to actually preemptively prevent threats from happening. And that's where AI has gone in the current state of the market. If you look at AI actually lends an advantage to the attackers first, because the attackers can take simple, inexpensive tools and cause havoc on everything from enterprises to governments. You have to have better AI to fight AI, and that's what Deep Instinct focuses on.
Carl, weigh in on this because you mentioned Palo Alto and companies like Palo Alto and others. I won't call them modern legacy, but that's a term that's been kicked around. They're starting to rewrite their platforms because there's so many threats, there's so much action. As someone who's been a practitioner now on the provider side, there is a new architecture emerging. Your portfolios continue to expand. We'll get to the news in a second, but I want you to lay out the framework for what today's landscape looks like, because the best of breed and having all these tools seems to be kind of moving towards the platform conversation. This seems to be the discussion. What's your take on this wave we're in? How do you maintain that innovation in providing great security products while protecting against threats? There's no perimeter. It's all gone. It's cloud scale, it's distributed computing. What does this era look like from your perspective?
No, from my perspective, if you look at the modern legacy, to use your quote, it's really based on machine learning. And I want to say I first deployed my first machine learning kind of platform over 15 years ago, so it's not new. And what the current companies are doing is really augmenting with generative AI. And if you look at where they're augmenting, it's not usually in their core platforms that provide the protection and the prevention. It's more in the operational side where they're looking to augment their data coming in with an AI in that security operations environment. But fundamentally, they're not addressing the root cause, which is the threat landscape has shifted because of generative AI and dark AI, and the current platforms are overwhelmed. So they're really putting a Band-Aid over the issue, which is getting into a more preemptive prevention of the problem rather than detecting and responding it and augmenting the security operations in that aspect.
It's been interesting. I just wrote a post on LinkedIn. This Snowflake Summit's happening here in San Francisco Bay Area. Everyone's talking about agents, and my comment was, and I'd love to get both of your reactions to this, was, as the AI infrastructure kind of hits the red zone, to use the football metaphor, it's about to cross over. You're starting to see better, faster networking, higher bandwidth, more compute power, more capabilities, more supercomputing-like capabilities to unleash this data wave coming. Your portfolio is expanding. You have a couple news items here, one with AWS and a voice of SecOps. So as the AI infrastructure expands, what does that do for the data layer as this intelligence wave is coming? Can you guys share your reaction to that and just your thoughts on as this unleashes more data and more intelligence? Where do you see that impacting security?
Yeah, I'll take the AWS piece of the question, then I'll let Carl talk about SecOps since he worked so much in that over the course of his career. But everybody's going through cloud transformation. Obviously, the biggest cloud today is AWS, but most companies are going through a multi-cloud strategy. So your data is no longer within your four walls, within your data centers. You've got to manage all of the data that you have going to the cloud, the transformation that you're going from legacy systems into the cloud. This is a massive undertaking, and it really becomes a very big target for attackers. So the attack landscape is increasing tremendously. And so when you're moving data into the cloud or you're looking at large repositories, say on AWS S3 buckets, how do you really know that tools that are usually used for beneficial reasons aren't being used to attack that data and compromise it? Most recent one, I think Cartier just had a data breach announced the other day, their customer database, very high-end customers. Many companies that have invested tremendously just simply don't have the tools and the understanding of how to use AI tools to combat more sophisticated attacks. And to be able to do that and help customers in that transformation to the cloud is of extreme importance. And we're happy to say that we're doing that very actively with AWS.
Carl, one of the hottest things in the tech circles, when you talk to developers, the ones that are innovating, is the tooling is getting automated and better. What does the voice of the SecOps teams look like? Obviously, skills gaps has always been a conversation with AI. That could be an advancement. What's the voice of the market telling you? What's in this new report on your 6th edition you guys just published?
Yeah, it's the adoption of AI in SecOps has really taken off. Over 80% of our respondents have implemented new AI tooling, which has obviously given a staff augmentation kind of advantage. Over 3/4 of the respondents said that AI had been implemented into business flows and business process as well. But they are missing some of the key parts. The report's quite interesting if you dig into it. So for example, some of the respondents who were not able to articulate AI more technically, in the survey, they also put that they had been hit with an AI-powered attack this year. So it's been really interesting digging into the report and finding those nuances. But as they implement these AI agents or AI tools, we'll call them, I think you still have an element of garbage in, garbage out. There's a lot of data coming into security operations from the threat landscape and all other aspects. But if the quality of that data coming in is inaccurate or full of false positives or full of noise, the AI is kind of helping you sift through it. But as the responders, you still have to go and chase down those ghosts. So you're leaning into a bit of a double-edged sword of burnout because there is the stress of implementation of all these new tools, and then there is the additional stress that they're now highlighting more of these ghosts and false positives that you need to go and chase down. So I think that's really where the burnout is coming from, is that implementation, and then, like you say, that response follow-up, and they're not really protecting their organization because they're going down false avenues and false paths because they're leaning into that legacy solution.
And one of the other stats that came out in the survey that we did was that now 86% of the boardroom executives are making it a mandate that there be a preemptive, proactive prevention of cyber attacks. This is compared to previous survey results that talked about detect and remediate. It's no longer acceptable to detect and remediate. And that's where you see a lot of companies focusing on this. In fact, my last company that I was close with, Jay Chowdhury, building Zscaler, recently did the acquisition of Red Canary just last week. This is a focus on even the best platform security companies are needing to step up the tool sets and the ability to service the SecOps teams that even with the greatest of technology and platforms and best of breed solutions, it's just becoming a chase to keep up with it.
Lane, that's a great point. Carl, great point on the burnout too, because AI can potentially help there. But I want to just double click on the point you made about predictive. There's conversations around -1 days. You mentioned the pressure. There's more pressure on the inbound threats. Okay, yep. I'm seeing more. Now there's a pressure to have a preemptive effect.
Yes.
Some are calling it, I don't know, -1 days, or is a term for it. This is actually real right now. Can you just expand on that? Because I think this is where some of the conversations around machine learning, deep learning, and artificial intelligence come into play. Can you share your thoughts on that, Lane and Carl? Do you want to weigh in?
Yeah, I'll start first, Carl.
Yep.
Look, this is really what excited me about this company. I could never make the promise for the last 25 years that we could actually predict and prevent a threat from happening. We basically find and prevent what others can't detect. And to be able to do that takes a level of AI that is far beyond the machine learning trained programs and cloud solutions. If you take a look at EDR, for example, you have to get feeds and telemetry to train those models and therefore then be able to update, whether it be the endpoints or the servers. You don't have time for that. We can take models that Deep Instinct has built 3 years ago that will actually stop a ransomware 0-day, first time never seen ransomware attack. That's very powerful. And we've had this capability at Deep Instinct for the last 7 years when speaking about AI wasn't in vogue. And deep learning is what allows you to do it. And while we won't get into the science of deep learning today, it's analogous to the kind of intelligence that allows you to have a neural network type determination. You and I can make determinations through inference and through instinct that typical program and models can't. That's the big difference here. We can actually predict what we call -1.
So you'd say deep learning is definitely a differentiator for you guys, and the word deep is in the name. So I'm assuming this is where you're optimizing your efforts.
Yes.
Yeah,
Carl,
absolutely, 100%. Our core is deep learning, and we're the only cybersecurity company today that we can implement deep learning technology into applications, into cloud storage, and across the enterprise. So with deep learning becomes that power that Lane said around 0-day and -1 and beyond, because deep learning is able to do that, unlike machine learning and other AIs that are out there. And that enables us to be, from a business perspective, some real big advantages. We don't have to update all the time. Actually, some of our biggest customers operate in air-gapped environments because we don't need to update. So there's a lot of operational aspects. It's very fast, and it's very, very accurate. Again, cutting through that noise. When we prevent something, it is malicious. Now, what has held deep learning back is it is a little bit of a black box. In other words, how did the brain, the model, come to that determination? But we cracked that earlier last year with a product called Diana, which is able to explain in plain English and good detail why the brain came to that decision. So we managed to bridge the explainability gap that certainly was holding back some of the AI as well.
I just want to add one other point. This is a big claim we make, and I encourage anybody to really put it to the test, because true prevention through deep learning has a significant difference. We're talking 99% efficacy, and you can't achieve that with traditional machine learning models. And you have to actually see it to believe it.
Yeah, that's a great point. Deep learning is an advantage, certainly with the data exploding and the infrastructure getting stronger. Carl, you mentioned earlier about machine learning. I always talk to Dave Vellante on yeah, machine learning, I did that in college. There's been general consensus from in the enterprise, large scale enterprises, even in hyperscale. Let's say the enterprise, machine learning's been around, right? You mentioned it.
Yeah.
Fraud detection, great use cases, end-to-end workflows, buttoned up, all good. Now the difference between machine learning and deep learning, and then this era of generative AI, are different. Can you explain the differences? Because most people get caught up. They hear machine learning, they hear computer science, whether they're young or trying to pivot their career. But the deep learning is different. And the artificial intelligence piece that is enabled from that ties into. Explain the difference between machine learning, deep learning, and how that impacts essentially usable, practical, and valuable artificial intelligence.
I'd like to give a real life example. We see it today in self-driving cars. If you were driving down a road and there was a stop sign 3/4 covered by snow, the car, if it's got a safety or if it's a self-driving autonomous car, is going to be able to identify that as a stop sign and it's going to stop. Now, that would have to be trained on numerous kinds of data points to be able to make that inference, to make and act on it. The same as in cyber. If you're in a machine learning model, you have data sets which are on trained models, and those models are very structured. You can't make the inference that you can with a neural network deep learning framework the way you can with something like deep learning, deep instinct. And so the same happens here. We're going to make inferences that no machine learning model can intelligently do with the data sets it collects and that it's trained upon.
And we actually have a really good video on our Deep Instinct website because we could probably host a whole interview on the differences there.
Yeah, definitely want to do that for sure.
Yeah, it's really, I just wanted to add in that the benefits of deep learning is the fact that we don't need to train it but once or twice a year. Once it's in, its ability to infer, as Lane was saying. So from a business customer perspective, there are some huge benefits around privacy because we never train on customer data. We don't need to. We operate in unconnected environments and we're really fast. So there's a lot of business advantages to our customers when they adopt our platform over some of the machine learning and more legacy platforms as well.
So I have to ask, what is the real impact to the practitioners, the SecOps teams, the executives with deep learning and the deep impact platform? And you got the news with AWS. What's in it for them? Okay, take me through a day in the life of a customer. Okay, love it. You had me at deep impact. I love deep learning. I'm assuming there's a lot of research behind this. I really don't want to invest in a black box. I want end-to-end workflows automated. I want my defenses up and running. I want my team not to be burned out. What's the pitch?
I'll take the AWS one. There are massive amounts of data that are stored in S3 buckets in the cloud, and I know you're going to be meeting with AWS later this week. They'll give you stories about how big that is. At the end of the day, there's no way to scan the massive amount of data in the cloud and do it effectively. And from a standpoint of the value to the customer, AWS is not a security company. It relies heavily on its partnerships, its marketplace, and the vendors. And we saw this with Wiz. Wiz had a valuable relationship with AWS that grew the company significantly. The same exists here. Customers, if you're going to deploy on the Amazon cloud and you're going to have S3 buckets storing massive amounts of data, it's a simple thing to say, do you want some ketchup with those fries, and secure that in a way that nothing else can. And so that's an opportunity in solving a real problem around securing your cloud with AWS or other cloud platforms. Maybe you want to talk a little bit as well to some of the real applications in use with the other enterprise solutions.
Yeah, sure. So I think there's a couple of big benefits. One is accuracy. So that SecOps, that noise that I was talking about earlier, goes away, right? You're down into single events, maybe a few events, but you know they're malicious. And then with Diana, we explain why they're malicious in seconds. So there's no need for some of the process of forensics and analysis that happens in SecOps. we prevent it from executing. So it stops, so you're not in a response phase. And then Diana explains precisely and exactly why it was a threat. And I want to highlight, we're the only people who can do that with 0 day. All the others that you look at is based on known and not on 0 day and unknown, and that makes it unique. And then, from an implementation perspective, we consider the data to be the crown jewels, right? So you want to stop the threats from getting to your data repositories and the servers and whatever attached to those repositories. So with our applications platform, through ICAP, Secure ICAP, and API, we can literally insert into any application or infrastructure and provide that prevention first mindset, so it doesn't even get to your data repositories once it's fully implemented. And that means you can retire, as I did at Citi, a lot of legacy platforms that reduces your OpEx and reduces your complexity in your organization, which certainly a CISO and a CTO in a customer, that's news to their ears, because for years, I think as you mentioned, we've been adding layers and the complexity's gone up. So we enable customers to remove a lot of legacy things, but provide them with future-proof, prevention-first, preemptive threat prevention.
That's a great point, by the way. 0 days are with the prevention, or maintain 0 days, they're secure. You get the preventive side on that piece, that's key. And then you get the bonus points for the transformation costs,
Yep.
right? So it's a double bottom line benefit to the customer.
No, it really is, and part of that OpEx is we don't normally replace one for one either. So because of our speed in how we make decisions, because we don't require any cloud analytics or anything like that, so we're very fast. So those legacy platforms, even if you had thousands of servers protecting your storage using a legacy signature or machine learning based solution, we have customers who have gone down to a couple of hundred. So they're just literally saving OpEx on reduced data center costs anyway.
I love how you guys are looking at the 0 day. I love how you think about the market. But obviously both got huge experience in a huge growing market. Lane, talk about the relationship with AWS. I know you got some news there. I want to just double click on that. Give us the status of the partnership. How is it structured? What's the status, and what are you guys doing?
Yeah, the real value is that we make it easy for customers who are deploying on AWS to add a level of security that they simply can't get anywhere else. So through rigorous integration and testing, getting admitted into their Premier ISV program, it allows actually customers to use credits that they build with AWS to essentially purchase and deploy Deep Instinct to protect their cloud buckets. So it streamlines not only the opportunity for customers to implement the solution, but also to purchase the solution and have a level of protection that they're unlikely to get with other types of cloud solutions.
Congrats! I saw the news, and just for the note for the viewers, deployed on AWS status is not earned from the people who don't earn it. So it's really coveted kind of accreditation for you guys. So you guys have that deployed on AWS. They don't take that lightly. In fact, they don't throw that around loosely at all.
Yes, very proud of it. A lot of people worked very hard on both sides.
Yep.
All right, Lane and Carl, I got to get your historical perspective. We were theCUBE and the NYSE. We were at RSA this year again, for our 8th consecutive year, my 13th year. Every year at RSA, it's kind of like the fashion wave. It's like, what's fashionable, and then you can kind of get a taste of the market, especially RSA, Black Hat and other events, a little bit more deeper in the tech, a little bit more team oriented. RSA this year, and compared to last year was very lame. It was like, Gen AI, they were poo-pooing it. Obviously security folks are skeptical. The bar is high. This year, there was real use cases this year in RSA around agents. You're starting to see the practitioners, Carl. You see the burnout. You're starting to see the workflows. You're starting to see the end-to-end data. What excites you guys about the cybersecurity industry right now and where it's headed? Do you feel like it's in a good spot? Do you feel like customers are ready to reset their platforms or re-platformize? What is your view today. What excites you guys? You're in a good position with the deep learning. You got the zero-day approach that's pragmatic, but also preventative. What excites you most about where we are right now?
I'll take it first. Look, the platformization play is definitely taking hold. Customers, because of fatigue and having to sort out a lot of the nuances, are challenged. But it's nice to see that the platformization approach is being facilitated a lot through heavy consolidation in the industry of some of the best of breed point solutions. We're seeing a big theme this year at RSA was SecOps, right? Identity management. Everybody is also looking at social engineering using AI and the impacts and how that insider threats might impact through data leakage and things. So a lot of old themes being revitalized because of the AI broader theme, but more importantly, a lot of it being brought together under some platforms. I predict we'll see a lot of consolidation in the industry in the next 2 years because of this.
Carl, what gets you excited?
I agree with Lane in that I think generative AI, especially in some of those more complex areas, even silly things such that are not sexy and don't get mentioned at RSA, such as configuration assurance, inventory, right? We talk about, you said, right, the perimeter doesn't exist, so where is your data, where are your devices? And it's a really tough question to answer today. So these fundamental foundation parts of just technology in general, but are certainly very important to SecOps and cyber. Those problems are data problems. And I really see a big wave of innovation continuing for years. We're right at the start of implementing generative AI. And so I'm excited as a defender, as a good guy in the cyberspace to be able to see the new AIs as well as deep learning. And then we'll look at edge AI, chipsets, and quantum are going to have an impact as well in the medium term. But it's a very exciting space, as it's always been. But really being able to crack those problems that we really haven't had a good solution for historically. And I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, great job.
I'll make one other point. You're seeing a lot of converging of those practitioners that had to worry about the data and those that typically focus heavily and solely on cyber.
Yep.
This will come together as data becomes a real big challenge in this age of AI.
That's a great point, Lane. You know the old expression, why rob a bank? Because that's where the money is. Your preemptive approach to data security. They want the data, right? That's where the money, the
Yep.
data. So protecting the data security piece is huge. Preemptive is massive benefit. Congratulations on that success. I guess the final question I have for both of you is what's next for Deep Instinct? What are you focused on? What's your plans? What are you optimizing for?
Well, I'll speak from a company progression standpoint. My passion has always been building companies and value towards the goal of a public market. That's why we're here on NYSE today. In my stand, it's taking the go-to-market and scaling that so that we can grow the business much more fast.
Awesome.
No, we continue to innovate in the product space. I mean, we talk about AWS. There are other players out there. And with what our team has developed, we're able to take our deep learning value, our deep learning core, and applying in many different places that we haven't quite covered yet. So I continue to see some product innovation as well.
Well, congratulations. Wish I could be there in person. Love the backdrop there. You get the logo on the big board,
nice,
the cubes, they call them.
Thank you.
Ironically, they call them the cube, which is great because that's what we do. And again, we'll see you guys around. And congratulations on the AWS status and milestone there in that partnership. And continue to be the voice of SecOps. We'll be checking in with you guys. And again, we'll be following the progress. And again, great work. Thanks for coming on theCUBE.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
I'm John Furrier, host of theCUBE. We are here in Palo Alto going live to the NYSE Wired Studios for the LaunchPad feature with Deep Instinct. Thanks for watching.